In this video, we're going to take a look at sorting in Excel using just a single key field. I have the data here from our advising.txt file, which we pulled into Excel in the previous video, and we also formatted it as a table, which is why we have the banded rows, and the headings look a little different. We've got these little drop-down arrows here on the side, and all of that stuff was from format as a table right here. Whenever you click in the table design tools will appear up here as a new tab with a ribbon underneath it. And one of the options here that we didn't look at before is it is possible to convert it back into a range, which will do away with that little tab down here at the bottom. It will do away with the drop-down arrows here at the top. It does not change the formatting. Let's look real quickly at what happens here. It says, do you want to convert it back to a normal range? And I'll say, okay. And so it looks like a table now, but if I tried sorting it, the rows would not stay banded with every other row. If two rows are banded right now and in the light blue color, and they end up next to one another, I'd have two colors or two rows with the same color later on. So if I want to get this stuff cleaned up a little bit here to just treat it as ordinary data, I just go to my fill color here and say I don't want any fill. I go to my borders here and say I don't want any borders. And my headings here look like they disappeared, but they didn't really disappear. They were white and they stayed white. So I would have to go back and change those. And now it's just an ordinary range, and you can do anything you want to with it. But I'm going to convert this back to a table. Now you don't have to officially format it as a table if you want to do sorting. But it probably makes things just a little bit easier. So it's back as a table now, and we have some options for sorting. There's two ways to do this. One is by looking at the little drop down at the top of each one of these columns, and you see we've got three choices for sorting here. We're not going to look at the sort by color, but we can sort alphabetically or in reverse alphabetical order. And those options are also available if you click on the Data tab. Okay, if I click on the Data tab, I've got a group here called Sort and Filter, and we're going to look at these two buttons right here. And in some of our future videos, we'll take a look at these other buttons that are available over here. So sorting is just about the easiest thing to do in Excel. All you have to do is put the cursor in the column you want to sort on. And before we do this, I just want to take a look at the data that's in this row. It's George Washington. His major is HRM. His advisor is Redmond. He has 40 credits, and his ID number is number 1. Okay? So I'm going to do an A to Z sort, which will sort by first name alphabetically. And if I go down here and look at George, you'll see all of the data for George stayed with George. So if you look at the data for George here, you see it all stay together. And all of the data that's on a row is related when you're doing table things like sorting and filtering. And it needs to stay together. If for some reason you accidentally, get Clinton's credits moved up here, but you leave everything else down here, you just scrambled your data, and nothing you do from that point forward will make any sense. So when you're doing sorting and filtering, Excel knows that all the data on a row is supposed to be related, and it's supposed to stay together, and it will do that for you unless you explicitly tell it not to. So when you're doing database kinds of stuff like sorting and filtering, there is some terminology that's used. Frequently, it just calls the data that's on a row, but sometimes you may hear people refer to it as a record. So a record is just some related data, and you can kind of think of each row of data here as like being like a 3x5 card that has the first name, last name, major, advisor, credits, and ID number for one person on it. And anytime we rearrange the cards, all of the stuff that's on a given card stays on the card. So all of those fields, all those data fields remain together. So sometimes it's called a row. It's probably usually called a row, but sometimes you may hear people refer to it as a record, and they're the same thing. We also have columns here. We have a first name column, a last name column, a major, advisor, credits, and ID number. And sometimes those are called fields instead of columns. And this is the first name column or the first name field. And sometimes that refers to everything in the column. Sometimes it just refers to a specific value in a row. So this is the first name field in the Abraham Lincoln row. This is the first name field in the Andrew Jackson row, and so on. And you can always tell by the context whether we're talking about an entire column or whether we're just talking about an individual cell. Okay. I guess cell is another term that you may hear as well. So field, column, or cell. And column is going to refer to the whole thing. Cell will refer to one cell, and field is kind of ambiguous. It depends on the context. So I've just sorted this column, and there's a little arrow there that was not there before, and the arrow is going up, which means that I have sorted this data in ascending order. And if I go over here and click on the Z to A, it reverses the order of the data, and I can tell that it's in reverse alphabetical order because the arrow now points down. I can do the same thing here in the last name column. I can sort it from A to Z, or I can sort it from Z to A. Same thing in the major column over here. Let's sort from A to Z. And then again, I'm going to click on Z to A, and we will sort them in reverse order by major. So everybody within a major now is grouped together. I can also sort them by advisor. And let's do an A to Z sort. Now they're alphabetical. I'm sorry, I didn't put the column in the, I didn't click in the advisor column. Let's do an A to Z sort. And now the advisor that comes first alphabetically is up here, and the one that comes last alphabetically is at the bottom. And if I flip it around and click on Z to A, now Wilson's at the top and Coffin is at the bottom. I can do the same thing with number columns. You might not think so because the buttons say A to Z, but if I pause the mouse over here, it does say sort smallest to largest, whereas if I go over here and I pause the mouse over it, it says sort A to Z. So it does recognize that this is a number column. The buttons don't change though, but the pop-up does. And so I'm going to click on this, and it puts the freshmen at the beginning and the seniors at the end. If I would rather have the seniors at the beginning, click on the other sort button here, and it'll put the seniors at the top and the freshmen at the bottom. And the last thing is the ID number. And if I click from A to Z, I get them back in the original order. If I click from Z to A, I get them back in the reverse of the original order. And since I want them back in the original order here, I'm going to click on A to Z again. And that's how you do sorting. Another term that you may hear when you are doing sorting is the term key. And a key is the field that you are using to sort. So if I sort by ID number, which is what I've done last here, ID number is called my key field. If I click on credits here and sort by credits from A to Z, credits is now the key field. So that's a database term, and it's used to refer to the field that you're using to sort on. Let's go back to our sorting by ID number here, and there we go. And that is how you do sorting in Excel. It is one of the easiest things to do. Basically, you just have to be in the column that you want to be in and do an A to Z sort. Do not go up here and do something like this before you start. If you want to sort on first name, don't make it harder than it is. You just have to be in the right column. And if you don't want to use the buttons up here, you don't have to use the buttons. You can just go here and say sort from A to Z. And now they're sorted by first name. And I can go back over here and do sort smallest to largest. And now they're back in their original numeric order. So either use the buttons up here, or you can go to the top of a column, click on the down arrow, and use one of the sort options over here. And we'll look at some other options for sorting in another video.